Here we go. Hey y'all, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and now I'm actually live streaming. Somehow before I wasn't live streaming, and now I think I am. Yes, it showed up. I am live streaming now. Okay, having all that to be known, today's live stream is around snapshot cameras and the average person capturing the world around them. I have been thinking about this a lot, and I've been paying attention to the world around me lately and thinking back in time and things like that. And I've come to realize some things about cameras that photographers seem to have forgotten. And they want to get bent out of shape because of equipment and things like that. Here's where I want to start. This is not a Gen 1. This is like a 1946 Kodak Brownie Target 620. The Target 620 was a specific version of the Brownie. The Brownie cameras were invented or introduced to the market in 1900. Here's a fun fact for you. They made these cameras till 1986. I had no idea you could get Target 620s or Brownie cameras all the way into the 80s, but they did. They had an 86-year run of these cameras. Kodak made these cameras literally to sell his film. That was the whole point of this Brownie camera, was to get photography compact enough that he could put it in the hands of the average person and they could go out and take photos. And originally, he would load a roll of film and the box was sealed. You'd take your pictures, mail it to Kodak, they would develop them, and if I understand right, reload the camera, send you back your contact prints, because it was printing on a 2.5 by 4.5 contact print. Basically, they would put the negative directly over the film and illuminate it, and it would make the print. That, so there wasn't any enlargement, basically. But it was still doing medium format or roll film, 120 roll film. But this was the original, the OG snapshot camera for the masses. This put photography in the hands of the average person. This camera still works. I've used it. It's a little bit of a pain for me to shoot on because the film is unique. Let's see here. I have to do, this way. Hopefully it don't have film in it. Yeah, there's the camera as it comes out of the box. They're cool little deals. I always keep a take-up spool in it, but it uses a special size film called the 620. It even says it right here. And tells you load the 620 film. This camera does not take 120 film. And if you put 120 film in it, it won't work. It'll jam. It'll cause trouble for you. But ultimately, there we go, get it put back together. This camera basically started a revolution of just the average person documenting their life. This is where you get Christmas pictures and birthday pictures and pictures of a vacation where this is where it all began. All right. The next real step in that kind of ideology is right here. Let's see. I'm going to catch up on the live chat here. Let's see. Hey, Joy's here. Scott Patterson's in. How you doing? Jacob Jurg is in. Greetings from Holland. Sweet. Glad to see you. Let's hear. And Bass Angler, thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. You have a brownie? Nice. Good evening from the UK. Neville Cole is here. Nice to see you, Neville. Neville. Not sure which way you pronounce that. Probably neither. This is a Vivitar brand 110 film camera. My whole youth growing up, this is the camera that my mother and father used the whole time up until the 80s. The mid 80s is when they finally got a 35 millimeter point and shoot. Something like this. This one's a little fancier, but we'll get to that in a second. This one is like a upgraded version of the 110 film camera that Mama had. She had, I think hers was either made by Polaroid or it was made by Kodak. I don't remember for sure. But this one's actually got a telephoto mode on it, and it has a flash built into it. The first ones didn't have flash, so they were only like that big. They were tiny little things. This one actually has a telephoto lens. It pushes in and out of mode with this slider. It slides a lens physically in front of the film window. It's kind of a neat deal. 24 or 36, 1:7 lens. I'm not real sure what that means, but I'm not sure what set means. 1 and 2. I don't have the book to this, but oh, it's talking about the flash settings on the back. That's what it's talking about. But no, I don't have no batteries in it. The door ain't corroded either. That's kind of rare. Anyway, getting back to things, 110 film was like spy camera film, okay? And most of y'all remember this, but this was like the next iteration of pocketable cameras, because you can see the thing isn't that big. You can slide it in your back pocket. It would fit in a purse. It was easy to carry. You know, you'd stick this thing on your wrist, and it's not heavy, and it wasn't obtrusive. And they take reasonably good snapshots. You know, you would print them, and they'd normally print like 2 inches by 3 inches or 2.5 by 4, some kind of aspect like that. I don't remember the actual aspect ratio, but they were smaller than like the 4x6s that we get now. I remember that because Mama's got tons and tons of them, because all the birthdays were shot with one of these and all the Christmases, you know. So this was the next expansion, if you want to call it that, or yeah, evolution of a camera for the masses, because it was the same ideology as the original Brownie, except that it was in a new film format, and it was all small, and it was small form factor, and it was easy because it was in little cartridges, and you didn't have to like feed the film and all that. You just bought the cartridges, drop them in, close the door, shoot the roll. And it's got like this, the Film Advance. I'd never seen one with automatic. You had this, and you'd run this so many times, like 2. Normally it was like a double stroke deal. Yeah, let's see if it's, this one does it in single. But you'd have to push this to advance it to the next frame, fire the frame. Basically cock the shutter and advance the film, take the picture. And they're mechanical. They're very simple cameras. They have a fixed aperture and everything, so it's like no thinking. Just take the pictures and send the film in, get your little prints back. The next iteration, this one's a little bit of an advanced copy. I didn't have my original one, but this one actually has a removable lens, which is kind of rare. This lens is broken. This camera has been dropped, but I have it for reference. This is a Minolta, and it's called a VETIS. It's either a VECTIS, Vectis, or a VETIS. I don't know which one, but it's like a little special system. Oh, mid-roll change. Oh, it would remember where you was at and probably rewind the roll back into the canister. That's a pretty advanced feature. This came kind of next, and most of them just typically would look like the body here, and they'd have a slide hardshell cover that'd slide over the lens, and you'd slide it open, and when you would do that, the lens sometimes would drive out and go into the engagement position, or it would just turn it on. And it would be 35 millimeter film. I don't even know how to open this one. Where's the button? I don't know. I'm not sure I can get into this camera's film department or film area. Is this a digital camera? No, it's got a mirror. Okay. Yeah, I can't tell. Sorry about that. Now I can't get the lens back on it. But you would have these little film cameras that look like this. And these film cameras were prolific from the mid-'80s up till basically about 2010. You would see them. And this is what we took pictures on at that point in my life. You could get them at like Kmart. You could get them, you know, about anywhere. Revco would sell them. And they would be, you know, the cameras would be $50, $60. They weren't super expensive cameras. And you could buy them in a pack of batteries and, you know, a pack of drugstore film, and off you go taking photos. And these were very popular. Excuse me. These were very popular cameras in the period. What? No Polaroid? No, Polaroid's its own thing. Polaroid cameras, for the most part, Polaroid did its own thing for a long time. But as far as like the 110, it was like introduced in 1972. And then it had a good run. Actually, you can still get 110 film today from the company Lomography. They still make a few varieties of 110 film. But the biggest player in the film game that was still alive, the last one to drop out, maybe I should say it that way, is Fuji. And Fuji left the market in 2009 with their last roll of 110 film, and Lomography kind of picked up the torch from there. And apparently these are real popular with the Lomo crowd. But so this ran till 86, and people still, what you do is you re-roll 120 film on the 620 spools, and people still shoot these cameras. It's kind of fun to get this out and go shoot a roll of film or two. It's cool. It's waist level viewfinder design. And then people are shooting these right now. I mean, there's a big resurgence of film. Kodak literally just made like a press release and stated that they had to hire more, like, what do you call it? More workers to manufacture film because there's so much of a demand for it. Okay. Now, the 35 millimeter point and shoots came out in the 80s. And then that kind of transitioned into, let's see if the battery's charged enough to do any good, or if the battery's dead. I still have my digital point and shoot that I bought. It's a Sony. So let's see if I can. This is the original battery. I put it on the charger. Let's see if it juices up. Nah, I think the battery ain't no good. It'll probably charge up eventually if I just play with it. It won't come on. This thing, like, motor drives out the lens. It's kind of neat. Yeah, it's not going to fire off. It's a neat little camera. I took it on several trips, but see how small it is? It's got a huge lens hood. It's got this weird deal here that screws on. And then you turn this around. So it makes it have this huge lens hood looking deal. But it actually made it take really good photos. But it don't weigh nothing. Look how small it is. But this was kind of the replacement for the 35 millimeter point and shoot. These kind of came next. And their run was very short-lived because of these. When Steve Jobs brought the iPhone to market, he didn't really realize, I don't think, what he was doing. He changed the landscape of photography forever. And now this is inside of this. And it's got the film developing is inside of this. Everything. It's in this device. That's the amazing part, is that photographers forget that why do camera companies make these cheap, crummy cameras? Why do they do this? It's because they're getting cameras in the hands of the average person so they can take memories, and they can just get snapshots and have memories to look at later. They're not trying to appeal to a artistic photographer who is trying to build a photo, an entire scene, trying to get this mood just right on a model. They're not doing that. They're literally looking at camera sales to a large group of people who want to capture memories. And this translating into this, translating into this, translating into this, is what these are for. Now, some people can take, very artistic and very photography related photos with a smartphone. I mean, people have made coffee table books with them. And that's fine, because people have taken the 110 camera and done photo projects with it. It doesn't limit you. It's just that the intent of these cameras was to get into the hands of the average person the ability to document their life around them. That was the point, not to basically say this is beneath the use of a legit photographer. And it seems like that gets lost on the photography community as a whole a lot of times. They look down on smartphone photography, and they look down on, these little 110 cameras, or, the Brownie, because it's just, it's so crude and it doesn't have a controllable aperture. This thing that's it. Hear it? That's like 1/30th of a second. So if you need 1/15th of a second, you fire the shutter twice before you advance film. Then there's no 1/4-20 stud. So you can't put it on a tripod. So if you're taking a picture and you want to like longer exposure, you set it down on something, hold it down on like the street or the concrete block or whatever, and just fire the shutter a couple of times, get your exposure. Of course, your people, if they're moving, are going to be blurry, but whatever. I mean, you're working with what you got. But you see the point is to put photography in the hands of the average consumer. And I just see so many people that hate on smartphone photography. And it's like, there's no reason to do that. Let me see. Tel Katan is here finally. How you doing? Hassan's in the house. Bass Angler. Let's see here. Obed Brinkman. Good day from the Netherlands. The Netherlands are awesome. Some of my ancestors are from the Netherlands. We have Dutch ancestors. Alfred Carr says, thanks for all your good info. My NX great-grandfather was Pierre Chastain. They always loved family pictures, even back to the daguerreotypes. Wow. Yeah. My family was never wealthy enough to be able to do daguerreotype photos. Joy says, I am absolutely amazed at the good quality of iPhone photos. A lot of that is in the software processing of the image, because I can see it when I zoom in on them, but the cameras have come a long way. And this is an iPhone 10, and the iPhone 10 has a 12 megapixel camera, front and rear, I think. Maybe the front one's only 8. I don't remember. It's not much. But the new iPhone's got like a 40 or 50 megapixel sensor, I don't remember. And the new Samsung's got like a 100 megapixel sensor. I really don't know how they cram 100 megapixels into a sensor that big. It's literally like 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters or something like that. It's this tiny little wafer of silicon that they build that on. And somehow they get some kind of crazy amount of resolution out of it. It's crazy. Ken Bear made it. Says he almost missed it, but he didn't. Way to go, Ken. Good, Tel. I'm glad to see you're doing well. Good. So, the point was to showcase the snapshot cameras from basically the inception of a snapshot camera till today. And today is this. When you see little teenage girls doing selfies and putting them on Instagram, it's kind of what it was made for. It's just the average snapshot photo. It was built to capture the world around you as it happens and quickly. And the fact that they're able to build they're literally able to build into these like video and long exposure and slow-mo, and like 120 frame per second slow-mo and like time-lapse modes. And it's just crazy what these things are capable of now. But we gotta let ourselves go of this whole stigma that, you know, the camera has to be of a certain caliber before it's a good camera. Just because this camera was expensive doesn't make it take much better photos than the one I'm videoing on. I mean, and honestly, you probably couldn't tell the difference if I didn't tell you which camera took which picture, and I spent a few minutes in post-processing. You probably wouldn't know. Yeah, it looks okay. Which camera took which photo. I got to do some work on my vlogging or my streaming stuff. Looks like there's a slight blue cast to the room. The picture on the screen just has this blue cast to it. So, but Hassan said, give the stream a thumbs up. No kidding. Let's do that. So what's the oldest camera you guys have? Drop it in the chat. I'm curious to know. And today, let me think. What was it that I saw today in the photography world that was a really mind-bending thing to know? I saw something. Phil was doing a video earlier today on the R6 Mark II. Joy says she uses Lightroom editing on her iPhone when she shoots from her phone. Hassan says, Agfa clack. Woo! What camera are you shooting on? I'm currently shooting on the Leica SL2 with a 50mm Summicron L, and this little camera is my CL with 35mm Voigtlander. It's a M mount lens. This is what I like about M mount glass. Okay, a 35mm f1.4. When you go to a rangefinder, look how small that lens is, and that's a 1.4 aperture 35mm lens. The whole lens, they're just tiny. Because the rangefinder's gauge line is a lot closer to the film plane, you don't have to make the glass as big to project onto the film plane. When Nikon went to the F mount, they had to have room in between the film plane and the back of the lens for the mirror. And that mirror sits at an angle, of course, and then when it moves up, you have that much distance from the back of the mirror box to the front of the mirror. And some of the lenses protrude past the bayonet a little bit, so they had to gauge all that stuff forward enough that the mirror would clear the lenses. And that makes the lenses have to be bigger, so you have to make this same physical lens larger and longer the further you move it away from the camera, even though they're both 35mm. And the M mount lenses, being rangefinder lenses, are small. It's incredible how little they can make these lenses. That's the reason I like it on this camera, because it just keeps the whole package nice and tidy. Because they make a 35mm L mount electric lens for this camera, but it's big. It's real big compared to this. And for me, this was the way I wanted to go. I just like the size and format of that camera. Yes, you have a blue cast, David. Yeah, I thought I did. I'm going to have to fix on that. I'll figure out how to do white balance next. I'll figure it out. And next time, there'll be some white balance adjustment. So I might can do some of it right here. Let's see. I'm here. I'm just playing with this. Let's see. Let's add some. What happens if I add orange to the frame? Hey, look at that. Now it's a little dim. Let's see. What does it look like now? It's still a little bit. It's a lot closer, isn't it? Looks like I've got, for some reason, I've got this light pushed down to like 2600 Kelvin to get it to look a lot better. That looks a lot closer though. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that. I just need to figure out why it's got to be pushed so far out to get it to look right. Tom Allen says Nikon F. Aha. Yes, the mighty F mount. I'm going to grab something. I'm coming back. I'm literally right here. My favorite F mount lens. We'll get to this in a minute once I get through the contact or the chat. Let's see. Obed says, oh, Neville says Nikon FE. Nice. Also, a lot of people look down on smaller sensors, but I made some fine photos with a Nikon 1 camera. That's the little mirrorless that they come out with a decade before mirrorless was cool, by the way. And which has a 1-inch sensor. And a 1-inch sensor is very small. And Aaron Lamb has a Nikon 1, and he loves it. The compact form factor, it's a wonderful little camera. Excuse me. David, my 2005 Pentax IST-DL from 2005, which I use weekly as I leave it in my car as it has little value. Yes, we'll go down that tangent in just a minute. The whole having a beater camera, I'm about to get one for that. Just for things just like you just said. If y'all seen Martin Castaigne's video that came out not long ago, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Hassan says, it's not a film fan myself, but I am looking to get an older digital camera, looking at the CCC or the CCD sensor D40 or an older micro four thirds. The CCD sensors produce a different color. And in the Leica community, the CCD sensor guys, there's like a whole, if you could just to grab a term, subreddit, you might, there's a whole subculture of guys who shoot those CCD cameras and love them because they say they have richer colors. Let's see. Tail says, just bought a Nikon D2H. Wow. With only 181 shutters. Wow, guy sold his long life collection. Brought my wife a D200 from the same guy. 100. It's a brand new camera. I mean, they put 180 shutter clicks on it, testing it when they built it. Wow, that's crazy. Tom Allen says, film speed used to be so slow, you had to have fast lenses. And he's right. It took a long time to get to ISO 100 film. And, you know, ISO 1600 really wasn't a thing until, the late 70s maybe? I mean, common. Because it took a long time to get to 100 speed film. It was still ISO 25 and ISO 10 in the 50s and 60s. You know, ISO 50 would have been fast film back then. And so you needed big glass to be able to get enough light. And yeah, that was a pretty common problem for the older photographers. Does Leica have a remote app that lets you control the camera from your phone? Yes, it does. It's called Leica Photos, and it's spelled Photos. And it works. It works really well. I typically don't fire the shutter from it. I have one video where I was up in Gatlinburg, and there was a hummingbird feeder, or a little bird feeder, and I was trying to catch birds coming to it, and I set my camera up on the tripod, and it was the SL, or the CL here. It was the CL, and I had a manual lens on. I pre-focused the lens on the feeder, and then every time a bird would show up, I'd just start snapping frames with it, and it worked. I got a photo. I got a good photo. I'd have to dig back through the archive to find that video to put it in the links or whatever, but yeah, it was a little vlog about going to Gatlinburg, and I was just sitting on the back porch of a B&B. But yeah, it works great. Let's see. The Lumix app is a bit clunky, but works well once you get it up and running. Okay, interesting. I normally only use my Leica Photos app to steal photos out of the camera straight into my phone. Because, like, if there's one I really want to just get out and edit and put on my Instagram or Vero or what have you, then I'll go into the camera and steal one just for that. or maybe Teresa wants pictures for her little story she's putting together, and I'll get some out and airdrop them to her. But for the most part, I haven't really used it for any of the camera physical control stuff before. Just firing the shutter is about the only thing I've ever done. Bass Angler says, are you ready to sell that ratty old 500 phase Presley yet? No. Not yet. Hassan says, you're never getting that 500. Tom Allen says, Nikon F200 was the last CCD Nikon. D200, that is. Okay, the D200 had a CCD sensor. Interesting. I had a couple of D200s because you can get them things for like $150, and they work great. I bought a couple of them. Jacob Jerk says, if he remembers correctly, the D80 also had a CCD, and they are dirt cheap. Yeah, you get cameras back to that age, you can get them for a song. Like the D200s, that's like a semi-pro camera from the period, and seriously, you can get them for like $150. I bought one and shot on it a little bit and done some vlogs on it and stuff, and then I gave it to my nephew because he was doing photos of mountain bikers, and he was, it was like real risky where he was going to be, and I was like, well, if the guy runs over you and breaks the camera, we're not out much, So he's been shooting with it. I should have bought one last week. They were on sale for $3,099. Wow. Yeah, that's like $500 off. Hassan says, how do you like the Vero app? I like it a lot. I like it way more than Instagram, mainly because you can put links in the description where you write the little description. That's a big plus to me because I want to link it back to my website instead of saying links in the bio garbage. It's a headache to change that link if you want to change it to something for a more current post. It's just a hassle. And then I like how you can put a larger resolution image and you can zoom in and look around the photo. I really like that functionality. I really, really like Vero. They're hopefully they won't turn their back on the photography community, kind of like Instagram did. At some point, we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm looking to see how that turns out. But I like Vero right now. Like it a lot. Yes, I think Nikon's getting ready to quick selling F-mount glass. The 2-500 was on sale for $1,099. Brand new? Wow. That's crazy. Obed Brinkman says, the D200 is a gem. Yes, it is. And that may be my beater camera I end up with. Is I really want an F-mount camera because I have a mountain of F-mount glass. And the D200 had the focus motor in the body, so you could do both focusing styles, lens motor focusing or body motor focusing. That was the reason I liked that camera. It's 2,100 hours in Belgium. Wow. It's 1,600 hours here. So there's a 5-hour difference. Interesting. Joy Adams says, never heard of Vero. Yeah, it kind of made a resurgence about, 5 months ago. Peter McKinney made a video about it, and everybody jumped back on it. They've existed for years, and it came on strong, and then it kind of faded off because Instagram's just easy, and everybody was already on it. And then Peter McKinney made his video about how Instagram is going video-centric, and they're kind of not prioritizing photo content anymore. And that he was moving to Vero, and when he did, the app blew up. And I have it on my phone now. I started my account, so everybody's got their Vero going now. Get you one going, you'll see. Phil's on there, Tim Childers is on there. I think Ron Durant might be. I don't know. Hassan says Nikon's first digital cameras were nice aesthetically, but then they were all industrial mass-produced style. He's got a sick face on. Yeah, but they were still, you know, I don't remember the engineer's name. Please forgive me, but there was a designer that he's the one that put the red racing stripe on the body. That guy, he still had heavy influence at that point, and it was an incredible design, especially the D200. It's a very user-friendly design camera. The little screen on the back is basically worthless, so I turn it off. I don't even use the back screen, and it's a optical viewfinder, so the battery life is really good. If you don't turn on image review, you just take your pictures, and when you get home, look at the photos. You know? Let's see. Where am I at? Joy Vero is very nice. Gonna check it out. Flickr. Bass Angler stills like Flickr. I haven't looked on my Flickr in ages. Bass Angler says Aaron and I are the last two Flickr supporters, I think.
That's some really good news when you get off there, I'll tell you.
All right. Hassan says, what is Flickr? All right, let me see. I learned my lesson the other day. I unlocked my phone on camera on a live stream, so I had to change my password. Let's see. I'm just checking to make sure it ain't something I need to talk about on the stream. It's all good. I'll catch some. There's some ham radio chat going on. Me and my buddy Roger are working on a repeater that he bought, and we've got it up and installed, and we've got it running, but we think the final power amplifier module is shorted through, and we're transmitting with the 90 milliwatt, what is called the preamplifier output. I think it's passing straight through this dead amplifier module, and we're radiating with 90 milliwatts because it can hear good, and he is in line of sight with it, and he can hear it. But I have some trees in the way, so I can almost not hear it at all. And since it's FM, line of sight is critical. But since he has unobstructed line of sight, he can actually hear 90 milliwatts at about 3 or 4 miles. It's pretty impressive. So we're trying to get the amplifier module going, so that's what he's texting about. He's been researching it all day. Oh, she's done run off, Bass Angler. Okay, I've caught up on the chat, so now I can talk about this. This is one of the reasons I want to get another F-mount camera. This is the 105 f2 DC Nikkor. Look at that beautiful piece of glass. Gorgeous lens. This defocus control. Oh, wow. I've got the drug way over. I don't know what I've done that for. I never run it on anything other than rear 2. And the reason I do that is because on rear 2, it's guaranteed not to screw your pictures up, and it will give you a little bit better background blur. All this defocus control does is changes the background bokeh slightly. You can run it in neutral, literally, and if you didn't have both photos side by side, you wouldn't know it. It's very subtle, but it's a cool function. And the reason I like this lens more than that is f2 instead of f4 or f2.8. I got an f4 copy right there of a 105 macro lens, and it's the same size as this f2 lens. F2 gives me another stop of light over most average lenses. The new version of basically this lens is an f1.4, and I've thought about getting it, but I would have to have a Nikon DSLR or a Nikon Z-mount body to drive it because it don't have an external aperture ring. That's the reason I still like this one. I can put this one on my SL2 and shoot with it. And I love this lens. It produces stunning photos. I have shot with this lens a lot. It's a crazy good lens. Gotta go. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, Joy. You have a good evening. But, man, this thing is incredible. Beautiful on the D810. Yeah. I shot that setup for a while. I'm thinking about seeing if I can get me a D750 because I think I want the 24 megapixel full frame sensor. And the main reason I do is for low light. Since you have bigger photo sights, then, you know, it gathers more light. You know, you got 24 million sensor sights instead of 36 or 47 or whatever the D850 has in the same space. Then it gathers more light, so the ISO noise is better. You see my point? That's the reason I'm thinking about a D750 for this. That would be great. Hassan says he still wants a DF. Yeah, DF's kind of a cool camera. It was an anomaly that you just didn't see a lot of people buying them. It was kind of unique, and I liked it, but I never bought one. I was too busy lusting over and using a D810. Peter says he just bought another kind of 105. Recently went to Japan for a work trip, and wanted something nice and was doubting between the 58 1.2 Noct or the Rayfact 105 f4.5 UV Nikkor. I got the Rayfact. I've never heard of one of those. Email a picture to georgiaphotog@gmail.com and I'll put it on the stream. Let me see if I got my Gmail going here. Yeah, if you'll shoot it to georgiaphotog@gmail.com, just shoot an iPhone picture and email it to me. We done talked about how good iPhones take pictures. But I'm curious to see that. I'd like to see that. Oh, that's not a problem. But I'm reading emails. I have 10-Tech Argonaut emails. This is a 10-Tech Argonaut. So I won't leave it on because the cooling fan is loud. But see, it's on 20 meters right now. I was listening to it earlier. Let's see. Trying to find somebody loud. Well. I don't know if y'all can hear that. He's going fast. I can hear some of the letters. How about we just turn that off? Oh, back to what we was doing. Let's see if he sent me a picture. I got my Huntsville Hamfest tickets. I just found that. Social. No. Now live. Yeah, it's told me I'm live on my own channel. No picture yet. Oh well. Let's see. Tom Allen says, I wanted a DF and then discovered the Fuji XT bodies. Love the dials. I gotta admit, I kind of miss my XT3 a little. I enjoyed the camera, and I shot with it extensively for about a year and a half or 2 years. I used it a lot, and I loved that camera. I love, like you said, I love the interaction with the dials. I have a blog post coming out in the next couple of weeks. Ulrich made it. Nice. And I'm pretty sure it's coming out pretty soon. I can look and see. Recent events. It's coming out December 7th. So, but it talks about, I'll go ahead and spoiler alert. It talks about how I'm kind of kinesthetic and I enjoy using my gear as much as the final image. And it's just something that I don't think I'm alone here. I think I like it as much as the next guy. Like, using the equipment is just as valuable. But now I still need to use it properly. Jacob says, Hassan, buy it. Okay, buy it. Hassan, DF, and get the Voigtlander 58mm. You will shoot black and white forever. That's pretty cool. Peter says, now I still need to use it properly. I have the Voigtlander. It is really nice. I wanted a DF, then discovered the Fuji XTs. Hassan says, Jacob, probably pick one up for my birthday next year. Peter says he will email a picture. Nice. Okay, here's a site where they make them. Very expensive. Didn't see the site. It didn't come through. Tom Allen, yeah, the XH2 looks really nice. Also, the XT5 looks like it will be a killer APS-C camera. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get another Fujifilm camera anytime soon. I like them, and they perform really well. I shot my whole trip in Israel on my XT3 with the kit lens. Every picture in my photo book from that trip was shot with the kit lens and the XT3, and it done wonderful. I wanted to travel light, so I just took that kit and a couple more lenses, like a couple of primes. In case the kit lens, I dropped it and damaged it or something, I'd have like I think I took the 35mm. 35 or a 50 and like a 200 for a telephoto if I wanted it. But I just took a spare lens. But that thing ran great. Refresh this. But at the end of the day, I don't think I'll get it out. As long as I have this one, I'll just shoot this guy. I mean, but yeah, that's why I like this one, because it's got the two dials on the top. Hear them dials? Nice and delicious. Listen to that. Then of course you have the aperture ring on the front here. See? I bumped the mic. And then of course the focus. And it has the tab focus because it's an M-mount design, so it has this little tab on the bottom that you just catch with your index finger, and you can run the focus real fast. There's one extreme to the other is one finger, so you can get focus really quickly with it. It's really nice to use these little tiny compact M-mount lenses. But I also have this. Let me get it here. I also have this TT Artisan, and it's a native L mount. So I don't need the M adapter L, so that's that much of the thickness. So this lens, I've got a screw on. It's not hardly any bigger than the M mount counterpart. Just this lens hood screws onto the filter thread and makes it look bigger, but it really ain't. Once you have the adapters, they're about the same. And this little lens takes stunningly good photos. I shot with it until I picked up that Voigtlander. And they're the same. They're both 35mm f1.4. But this one, the focus ring is good. The aperture ring is kind of thin. Like they've got the knurling so fine that it's almost smooth. And I mean, it works, but if you're out in a hot sunny day and your hands get sweaty, that's going to get slick. And I wished it had the same knurl rate as the focus ring, that coarser knurl, so that you can get a hold of it easier. That's my only real complaint about this lens. Other than that, it's a great little lens. For the money, this thing is a steal. It's like $75, $70, brand new, delivered. I bought mine off eBay, and I think it came to my door for like $73. Brand new. It was crazy. But now it didn't have the lens hood. You have to buy it separate from Amazon. I don't remember what I paid for it. Matter of fact, Cuban Rum saw that lens. We went to the Leica store in Miami, and I had it on my camera. Let's see. Ulrich says, cheers from Denmark. Man, I got more Europeans in the chat than I do USA citizens, Americans, whatever you call them. Man, the European community is represented. We got the Netherlands, we got England, or the UK, I don't know. Picture came in. Here we go. Dude, that looks shockingly like a Nikkor lens. Oh, I get it. It is a Nikkor lens. Huh. Let me just switch this over. Check that out. Look at that. I've never seen one of these lenses before. That's neat. Yeah, now I see why you picked it up. Literally, the first time I've ever seen one is right now. Let me close this out. That's where I download crap. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Is it a phase Fresnel lens? Is that what I'm reading with that PF on it? I can see phase Fresnel 105mm f4.5 manual focus UV. Yeah, now explain that to me. What's all that about? Let's see, where am I at on the chat? I don't want to let it run past me. Anyone notice that the Nikon Z30 looks like the canceled Nikon DL cameras? The Z30 don't have a viewfinder, does it? It's look on the back of the camera only. Leica tried that and it didn't work well. I mean, they sold some of them, the TL and TL2, but it's, you know, what they're trying to do is they're trying to capture people with these. They're trying to grab that iPhone user base, and it makes sense. I'm gonna segue to that for a second because there's something to be said there. When you got a generation of people that grew up knowing about these, literally, they, you know, if they were born in the year 2000, 2001, my daughter was born in 2002, and so she was what, 5 when they launched the iPhone? So basically all her life iPhones have existed. So she takes pictures looking at the screen. That's what she does. And Leica recognized that this has become the way you take pictures, not this, but this. So they made the TL, and it actually sold pretty well, but for their normal demographic, they were trying to break into the young market. And see, because Leica typically sells to older people, because normally people that are more established in life and have more disposable income can buy their more expensive cameras. It's just kind of normal. You know, you see that math. Well, they were trying to break into that younger demographic with this view on the back of the camera, and they didn't have money to buy it. I bought one and tried to use it, and it took beautiful photos. The colors were rich, but I couldn't see it because I had to look through my bifocals to see the screen to make my composition. It would make my neck hurt after a while. So I finally gave up on it. And you can get the VisiFlex, which is an EVF that plugs into the hot shoe. I just didn't want to buy that just so I could look through a viewfinder on the little tiny camera when I could get the CL. So I got the CL and sold the TL. But yeah, you know, that was forward thinking. And the Z30 is based on that same premise. You look on the back of the camera and do your composition, take your picture. And I want to say Sony's got some cameras that are that way. Pretty sure they do. Scott Patterson says he wants an XT5. I'll have to take a look, but I'm thinking about going back in time and grabbing something for a beater camera. Larry Effler says he just switched from Fuji to Canon. I love having an aperture ring and shutter speed dial. I mean, yeah, that was one of the reasons I kind of moved a little bit away from Nikon. Was they were doing away with these, you know, the G series lenses means gilded, which means they removed the aperture ring. And yeah, that was, I mean, it makes sense. It's a dial on the camera now, so you don't have to move your hand. You know, you can just hold the camera and you can work the aperture and the shutter right here and then fire the shutter. I mean, I see the reasoning. The ergonomics makes sense, but I just like handling the gear, you know. Jacob's got to go. Thank you for coming to the stream, Jacob. Let's see. Tom Allen says, my newest camera is a Canon Model P. Discovering LTM lenses. Never heard of it. I'll have to look that up at some point. Cuban Rum, good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? Let's see here. I just sent the email. I got it. All right. I think the TT-Arsons, 7-Arsons, Paragear lenses are a great value for the money. Yeah, I do too. After having this one, I I don't remember when I bought this, but I found it on eBay. Me and Phil Thatch were looking around or messing around one night. I want to say it was me and Phil. I ain't real sure, but I found it on eBay and it was really cheap, and I went ahead and just grabbed it, especially since it was in L mount. And yeah, this is a very nice little lens. Let's see. I am all in on the Fuji system, and the X-T3 and X-T20, their lenses are phenomenal. Yeah, Ulrich, I agree. I had the 56 f1.2, I believe it is, or 1.4, that big 56 millimeter, and it was a beautiful lens. I almost got the one that has the extra, it's better bokeh, portrait monster or whatever, because it has that special ring around the perimeter with the black ND fader in it so that it makes the edges of the dots smoother. But they wanted several $100 more for it, and I wasn't really going to be taking heavy portraiture at the time. I was really just going to start shooting like street photography. And 56 is pretty good for Chattanooga because the streets are real wide. So shooting across the street, that's about 75 millimeter. It reaches pretty good, but I didn't use it much. I wound up using smaller manual focus lenses instead of the big Fuji lens for some reason. I just didn't mount it and use it much. I just don't understand it. But Tom Allen says for a beater Nikon, I would go with a D300 or a D700. Carmen Taverna, he is checking in from the nice city of New York. Dude, you have been wearing that channel out here lately. Good grief, you have been working hard. I don't know, man, it's like, how many of them lesson videos are you up to? 50 or 60? Some kind of crazy amount. If y'all guys haven't seen Carmen's channel, you need to go see it. Let me see here. Yeah, first hit. Let's see. There we go. Let's this whole live streaming thing, I'm still learning how to do it. So I've got 3 little scenes is what it calls it in OBS, where I can change what the screen shows. You're welcome, Carmen. You do a wonderful job, dude. I'm happy to. But this whole OBS thing is kind of new to me, like the color cast earlier. I still haven't figured out what's causing that problem and why I guess because the lamp is probably white balancing off of that lamp, because it's pretty yellow when I look at it, and when I look at this studio light I've put up, then it's matching the color of that lamp pretty closely. I bet it's metering that color off that lamp. And that's why the room was so blue earlier. Because yeah, now that I'm looking, they're about the same color temperature. It's making a lot more sense now. Oh, and if you haven't done it yet, you can go over to my website right here. I wrote that on there the other day as a joke. I had to add this riser to get the microphone to the right spot, because I finally learned where the mic needs to sit for me to talk to it properly. I was talking into the end of it, and it's not designed that way. It's designed to be talked to from the side. If I was to slide this wind muff off, you'd see there's an opening right here. That's why I've got it sitting where I do now. A, it's out of the way of the camera, and B, it's facing my mouth where you can actually hear it. Let's see. With all the lenses you mentioned, I'm curious how many pics you are taking with them. I have found that I do best with a small number of lenses. This is Ken Bear. Most of the lenses, like this one, I don't shoot with much now because I have the Voigtlander version of it. I just haven't gotten rid of this lens because it's kind of a spare now the reason I'm reluctant to get rid of it is if I drop this camera and damage this 35 f1.4, this is a 35 f1.4, so it's kind of become my backup. But I leave this is the way this camera rolls all the time. I haven't changed this literally in months. And the reason is because I'm shooting, this is like a 50 millimeter field of view, give or take a millimeter. And my SL2 has the 50 on it. So they're very similar fields of view. When I get them out to use them, I know what to expect when I look through the viewfinder. That's the reasoning behind the setups. So my average photography is 50 mil. But this 105, I shoot an event. Let me just do this. Yeah, oh good. Open this up. Let's see, is it in this folder? Well, it's thinking about it. I'll just show you some pictures I fired off with the 105 on the SL2. Cameras, or the computer's thinking about it right now. But I've kind of pared down what I actually use. I have like specific tools for specific things. That 500 millimeter that me and Bass Angler go back and forth about, where we kind of go at each other, you know. That lens I reserve for wildlife photography. That's the only thing I use it for, and I shoot it on this Z50. I have this little video rig. Is a Nikon Z50 with a little 10 to 20 millimeter DX lens, and I'll dismount it and put it on that 500 and shoot wildlife with that. That's a very specific thing. And then most of the other lenses I have, you know, the normal sizes. I have like a couple of 28 mils and the 105s, and like there's a 135 right there. You know, the usual telephoto stuff for portraits. But the bulk of my photography happens with 50 millimeter. Let's see. Let me just see if I can find some cool photos in this list. Let me start in the middle. All right, let me just jump over here. Back over here. You can go see more about that if you're interested in it. I mean, some people love to do community singings, and some people don't. You know, it's whatever you like. But you froze. Am I froze now? Let me try that. Is it still broken? Talk to me, somebody. Frame 0. Yeah, the counter's running. It says I'm still streaming. Nice picture. Autofocus or manual focus. Okay, now. Okay, good. They're all manual focus. I'm shooting with this guy, and since it's not a native Leica lens, I have to manual aperture, manual focus it. it gets really comfortable after you do it about 10 or 15 minutes. You know which way to drive the focus ring, and it just works. You know, I get the viewfinder on the SL2 is so good that it's like looking through the lens. It really is. And you can literally just dial the focus, and you can just watch it, and you can track them as they walk around. And I normally don't shoot in burst. Sometimes I'll put it on low speed burst, but most of the time I don't. I just shoot single frame because I don't want to have to wade through 1,000 images of the same thing. I do a lot of in-camera delete too. Like if I get a song leader and they're moving around a lot and I'll take 6 or 8 photos, then I'll go through and delete all but maybe 2 of them in the camera just so that I don't have so much work to do when I get home. It's a lot easier on my edit. But yeah, it's all manual focus. I love it. Went to Acadia for a week or so. Although I brought a number of lenses, I forced myself to shoot with a 24-90 and the SL2, and I brought the Q2M. Wow, the Q2 monochrome for black and white. That worked well except for a couple of telephoto shots. Nice. The 24-90, it's up there. I used it the other day to great effect shooting the rock climbers. If you saw the pictures I posted on my social media of the rock climbers, they were shot with the 24-90. And I've learned that the photos are more interesting in that, like those kind of action shots, at 24 millimeter, and you get closer. If you can access them, and bouldering typically is all low to the ground. Most of the time it's not more than 10 or 15 feet max. So you can catch them really down low and get really good, like, dynamic poses with them climbing. And yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, this is a special situation. And for portraits, this works super great. Now, you know, you don't get eye detect autofocus, but it works. That Q2 monochrome is a sweet camera. I like the idea of the monochrome sensor without the Bayer filter. I mean, you can go to ludicrous ISOs like 52,000 and it still looks good in camera before you have to run it through something like Topaz denoise, and it's like beautiful images. Crazy good ISO performance. Scriptwick says, David, do you have C-Arch in focus for manual lenses? Never heard of it. For manual lenses. Never, yeah, I don't know what that is. Ulrich says, oh yeah, those rock climber shots were really nice. Thank you. Most of that goes to the rock climbers for making the poses. The rock climbers are really cool. It looks like we have a few hams here. And the noise looks like film grain, which is, yeah, Cuban Rum's got one too. It's awesome. If it had a 35 millimeter lens instead of a 28, I'd be more apt to buy it. Catch. Do you have catch? Oh. Scott Patterson asks, do you really like your crop sensor Leica? Yes, I do. I was shooting it yesterday. It's if I'm just grabbing a camera to take with me while we're going maybe out to eat, I take one everywhere. That's the one I grab because it's dedicated to that one lens. Like I said, I don't change lenses on it anymore. And I just grab it off the shelf, grab a battery, stick it in my pocket. Matter of fact, I had it today. And there's the spare battery. And also, like I said earlier, it uses Panasonic batteries, so it's like batteries for it are reasonable. Cameras and hams go together. Yeah, this is WK4DS Amateur Extra. Hassan says, David, now that you're back up and running, we should have a photo review, not a critique, just a review of some photos, to see some photos. I like that. We may not do an inclusive where we include all the images, but do one where I pick my top 10 or 20 and we go through them. Main reason is because what happens is, yeah, you have to manage that. And the reason it happens is because as it gets more popular, more people start sending images, and then people will send multiple images, and then what you end up with is 3 hours to get through the photos. And then I understand now why, like a lot of these places will pick 20 of the favorites out of the group that they liked. They'll drop them all in a folder, and they'll go through them and sort them and decide on the 20 they want to share, and they'll go through those, is because you just can't share them all. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning you can, but then you set that precedent, and then it turns into this huge laborious thing where it takes 3 or 4 hours to get through all the photos. And and if you forget someone, then they feel like they were left out on purpose, and that happened a time or two, and I didn't mean for it. So I have to figure out how to manage it so that it makes more sense. But I would like to do that. Yeah. My cameras have it. You put it on manual focus lenses, hold the shutter button down, twist the focus ring, and the shutter fires when you have the lens in focus. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I know my Nikons would do that. They wouldn't release the shutter till the image was in focus. You could set that mode. On the D810, you could do that. I haven't tried it on the SL2. I just look through. I use focus magnification. I'll compose the shot, move the focus indicator to what I want to be in focus, and once I've got the composition, I put the focus indicator on what I want to focus on, hit the button, and then when it's in focus, I just fire the shutter because I know the composition's right, because I built my composition beforehand. Then I just move the little magnification box to the thing I want to check. When I zoom in, I know I'm there. I just pull the shutter and get the photo. You kind of build a system that works for you. But yeah, I understand what you're talking about now. My D810 would do that. It would say release on focus or release on shutter, I think. In other words, you could tell it to let you take a bad picture, or you could make it not, and it wouldn't. Yeah, the D810 had it. It's just the way the shutter release worked. If the focus indicator in the D810, it come out of the box that way. Itches. Yeah, Cuban Rum says the more you manually focus, the easier it gets. You can do it really quick. Yeah, especially with the M lenses, since they have such a short focus throw. It happens really fast. You move through the focus quick. So you move past, back on, fire the shutter. It's just fast. And like he said, with some practice, it just gets easy. It's kind of neat. Bass Angler says, I'm just a lowly general class, but I will be amateur extra soon. LOL. Oh boy, I get to throw shade because you're one of them no code generals. Like that makes a difference somehow because you didn't have to do Morse code. I did Morse code, but I only did like 5 words a minute. And like 5 years before that, the general had to do 13 word a minute code, I'm pretty sure. And extra class had to do 20. And then at some point, but in that 5-year period prior to me and Trey getting our technician ticket, they reduced it and said that to get general or higher, you needed 5-word code, and that was it. And so I did the 5-word test, but yeah, that was, and back then they would call us, I got my extra class, and they'd call me a light extra light. I think it was extra light because I didn't have to do the 20-word code. It's like, so Morse code doesn't really make that big of a deal anymore. I mean, they're shutting down all the ship-to-shore stations, so yeah, don't matter. The test didn't really. It literally one part was Morse code. So what? And I understand why they initially had it, but in 2022, but yeah. Wow. This has been a quick hour and 15 minutes, guys. It literally just rolled 1 hour and 15 minutes on this stream. That happened fast. Do y'all have any questions for me? Because I'm going to wrap this up. I wanted to go over the initial thought process of the video was to go over how iPhones didn't replace cameras or eliminate them. They just became the de facto point and shoot cameras that we've always had since photography has really been a thing. Since 1900, literally since 1900, when the first brownies were released. That was Kodak's vision for the average person to be able to take snapshots of their life, was to produce a cheap camera that took reasonably good photos that was easy to use. And we've had those literally since 1900. So the iPhone is not some kind of new innovations that's going to eliminate high quality cameras. There were high quality cameras then, and there's high quality cameras now, and there will be until they change how photography works. You know, I'm looking forward to the day there's a global shutter and you don't have shutter lag, or you don't have, rolling shutter, my bad. I'm looking forward to that day when they can just read the sensor instantly. So you have 1/100,000th shutter speeds. You know, if you want to do slow shutter, you can, but you know. Or it says, how's your HP5 roll coming along? I haven't shot it this week. I need to get it out and use it and finish off that one. I got a Ziploc bag back there. It's got a half a dozen shot in it now. At the end of the year is the plan. I'm going to send it all to Memphis Film Labs and have them develop them all and do 4x6 prints and scan everything. And then send it all back, and I'm going to see what I got and see what it looks like. I've done some interesting pictures. And by doing it this way, I don't remember everything I photographed. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's see here. Scott Patterson said Morse code means very little today. It really does. It's a niche, and I enjoy it. That's why I've learned it. And I don't think, it's like they don't check to see if you know how to do, PSK 31. And they don't check to see if you know how to do AM or sideband or FM. So why are they checking to see if you know how to do Morse code? It just didn't make sense to me. I was kind of glad to see them remove the requirement, because it was like, why are you making sure they know how to do this one mode when you don't check to see if they know how to do all the other ones? It just was silly in my book. In the original days, before there was really voice ops, when radio first got started and it was all CW, kind of makes sense. But now it didn't. It hasn't made sense since probably the 50s when, AM transceivers became a thing. They should have eliminated it then. They really should have. If people want to use Morse code, they can. But yeah, it's kind of weird. All right, let's see. Back to subject. Tom Allen said they wanted to sell film. That was his exact reason for making the brownie. He realized mass production. If you make a cheap camera that takes reasonably good photos and you make it easy for the average person to take a picture, then they can sell a lot of film. And it worked. It made them very wealthy. I mean, Kodak was where you got film literally forever. Eastman Kodak was the stuff for the longest. They were the number one for most of the time there was film. Let's see. No questions. Thanks for streaming. Nice to see and hear you. I'll send some UV pictures with my new toy lens when I get around to it. It's 2200 hours here. Bedtime. Wow, nice. Take care, Peter. We'll see you later. Oh, and have you shot medium format film as well? Only on this. It shoots like a 2.5 by 4.5, so it would be like a 25 by 45 centimeter negative, something like that. I don't know, 50 by 125. You get, I think, 8 photos out of a roll of 120 film with this camera. So it produces a fairly large medium format negative. You know, it's meant for contact prints, but they enlarge pretty good. I've done some of them and enlarged them. But that's the only one I've ever shot. High-speed cameras have global shutters. Really? I didn't know that. Interesting. Do they still make E6 slide film nowadays? I don't know that either. I never shot slide film. Cuban Rump said, answered you. Yeah. Hassan says, David, were you around for the introduction of the talking movies? No, that predates me by about a week. Oh, you guys kill me. All right. I'm going to sign off. I'll let you guys go. And until next time, y'all get your cameras out and go take some pictures with them. All right. We'll see y'all in a day or two. Bye-bye. That's a good one, Hassan.